Then I got to wait for this to do this thing. It says live on Facebook, now streaming, but I have to wait for Facebook. That's the thing that happens. And I go over here and I click this. I close that. Guys just have to wait for me to do this. This is the way it goes. Okay, and then it says I'm live now, which is super cool. Just now, click that. All right, and then I hit mute. Yes, it's happening. We're live. Great. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Friday day live coaching. That's not redundant. It's like Saturday night live. That's confusing. This is Friday day live coaching. So it's actually, a lot of people have written and said, you know, this show is very similar to Saturday Night Live. You should sort of partner up and do some sort of similar naming convention. So that's what we're doing. Me and Lauren Michaels are working through some stuff like that, trying to sue me. Don't worry about it. Different conversation altogether. Let's have some tea, because I think that my patter will get better after I've drinking some hot tea. So today we're drinking out of this. Is this Cinderella? It must be, I think, because on the other side of the teacup, it says, "A dream is a wish your heart makes." So that's cool. Way to go, heart. Way to make that dream. Way to go, Cinderella, being the vessel for my hot cup of tea. This is, what is this? It tastes like gingerbread tea today. That's pretty great. Okay, well, it's nice to be here with you all. As you may know, if you've been following along with the lives Bay and I did over the last couple of weeks, we've been gone out of town and country for the last, and then out of continent for the last 2 weeks or so. We had a week in New York City where we were attending as guests of the graduation dinner for accomplishment coaching. So that's the program we used to lead over here on the West Coast. And we have a lot of really great friends that lead that work on the East Coast. And one of them, my dear friend, Michelle Aiken, said, "Adam, would you come and be my guest for graduation dinner here in New York?" To which I, of course, said, absolutely, without question, I will find a way to be there. And so it just so happened that that coincided kind of well with when we were going to do our retreat with The Forge. And our special celebrity guest today, Karen Goldfinger Baker, is actually a member of The Forge and did not come to the retreat. So you might have a chance to hear a little bit about that when she first comes on. Anyhow, a couple of thoughts. One, it's impossible to pack for that kind of trip. New York was friggin' cold and snowing, and colder than here. Here on the West Coast, especially in Victoria where we live, it's very temperate. Rarely does our temperature drop below freezing. What we do get, though, is a damp cold. And so even though it hovers just above freezing, you go outside and then you're cold for the next 3 months. It gets into your bones. Whereas New York, I found I'd go outside and just hate everything and be really cold, but then I'd get inside and be like, okay, I'm back to normal. So anyhow, and just a ton of warm winter clothes, and then had our week there, and then went to Costa Rica for a week for the retreat that we were running. So a couple things I'll share about this retreat. The main one was, it was amazing. And really, this is the first time we've ever done anything like this. We ran the intensive here in Victoria last year, which was an in-person event for 3 days. And it was incredible. We found it really profound, the kind of impact we could make in person in a short period of time. And so from that, we decided, well, we want to do that more. We want to create a retreat for this group of coaches and leaders we work with called The Forge. And so we thought that it was kind of like, you know, those diagrams where it's like step 1, steal all the underwear, step 2, question mark, step 3, profit. We were kind of doing that, where we were like, okay, step 1, have retreat. Step 3, be in Costa Rica. Step 2 was a lot of question marks. So we ended up renting this gorgeous place. We didn't really know anything about what it would require to get there. We just thought, it's going to be there. We're going to stand for the possibility. We'll make it happen. Turns out it required a great deal to be there. It's a pain in the ass to get anywhere in Costa Rica. You got to fly and then take buses, and then the next flight you're on is really landing with a shed and like no one around. And that was the point where Bay said, I wonder if we should have booked travel on the other side here. At which point I thought, oh, fuck, did I really screw up? Fortunately, we didn't. We caught a taxi, we found our place, and the photos of the place don't even do it justice, and they're so gorgeous. I think you can see some of those photos on my Facebook profile or Bay's profile. Really, like where we were staying was almost like, imagine a giant, huge place perched on top of a cliff overlooking the Costa Rican jungle and then the ocean from here on out. So just the most beautiful vista you could imagine. Just seeing birds and stuff flying through the jungle, tweeting at each other, hearing howler monkeys in the morning when we get up. And we had the top floor, the entire top floor was basically this wide open penthouse. So you're showering outside. You get up in the morning and stretch and write, overlooking all of this majesty. It's really amazing. Two of the things that made this trip so incredible, aside from all of that stuff, like that stuff's cool and beautiful and once in a lifetime. But what really made the difference for us was, first of all, it required something from everyone that showed up. No one arrived with us in Costa Rica without having already created a breakthrough. We had someone from India come, we had someone from France come, we had someone from the States and someone from Canada come. And for all of them, it was unpredictable. Most of them joined us this year and started out the year saying, I'm not coming to the retreat. I love that you guys are doing that. It's just not going to work for me. And so we supported them and stood for them to, one, see what was possible for them if they were to make this happen. And then two, how could they make it happen? So really the whole work of coaching in a nutshell, get enrolled in what's possible beyond your limitations, beyond your stories about why you can't do it, and then get supported to not stop at your limitations, to find a way to actually succeed and make that thing happen that you really want to make happen. So that's the first thing that was amazing about this. The second thing is that 4 people didn't come. And for them, a breakthrough was created on that particular path. And sometimes the breakthrough is like being with the disappointment of like having made a choice and then, oh man, I made a choice and it sucks and I'm sad. And how do I not be sad? And it's like, well, you be sad, because sometimes part of what is behind making and empowering a choice is that we have to be with whatever that drives up. A bit morbid, but I'm not even going to a morbid example. I don't need to do that. So really, on the whole, just such a really profound experience for Bay and I, a really profound experience for everyone that's in the Forge with us, and super stoked and thrilled on the other side of it. This next year, the next Forge that we're iterating, I want to share a couple things. Then I want to share about the intensive, and then we're going to bring Karen on. That's the roadmap. I've told you what we're going to do, then we're going to do it, then I'm going to tell you what I did. I learned that that's the way to do PowerPoint presentations. So next year, we're sort of in the process of thinking a little bit about like, what's the next iteration of the Forge look like? Without a doubt, it'll include a retreat. And currently the Forge is a 6-month program with a 1-month break in the middle, so kind of 7 months. It has a retreat sort of in the middle of that. And then we do what we do over those 6 months. We've had some requests for a few things. One is to have some sort of ongoing thing. So like, wow, love the Forge, but then what? Is there more that I can do? We've felt on some level like we might be best, it might really work to extend the length of this to make it a little bit longer. And we really love the idea of people going through the Forge are really developing their ability to coach and their being of leader. And so from that place, wouldn't it be cool to create some kind of event where people get to be in the practice of leading while they're still in the program with us? And so one of the ideas, and I'm sharing this with you, whoever you are watching, so you can hear it and possibly give feedback or share your excitement about it, or say that's just too intimidating or not for me or whatever it is. We don't actually know. We're just kind of in the genesis of the idea right now. And so one of the things we're thinking is extend the Forge to 9 months, have a retreat at maybe the 3-month mark, and then at the 6-month mark, have a public kind of retreat or intensive or something like that. And that way, members of the Forge can sort of take more of a leadership role there. We're also thinking there might be kind of 2 streams that happen. So there's the Forge for people that have not done that work with us before, and then a second stream for people that have graduated the Forge and then are like, I want to keep getting this juice, but I also want to I'd like to lead in some capacity in this structure that you've created. So we're looking down those sort of paths, seeing what makes the most sense, what inspires us, what inspires the people that we're talking to, what would inspire you, if any of that. So that's where we're at with that. The intensive is coming up. Karen is coming. So if you fall in love with Karen over the next hour, know that you get to meet her in person. If you come to the intensives, that's a little bonus. And the only thing that I want to say right now about this, I'll speak a little bit more as we finish up, is I put a post out on Facebook saying who would like a personalized invitation to the intensive. And I just want to explain what I mean when I ask that, which is I find marketing very difficult. It's not my forte, because my forte is really being present with the person in front of me and speaking the truth that I see for them and sharing their possibility and all that cool stuff. And I really believe that what you're going to get from this event, while there's a bunch of kind of like general stuff I can point to, what you in particular create and the breakthrough that will make being there worthwhile is unique to you. So it's really hard for me to touch on that in a markety sort of sales pagey kind of approach. Frankly, that's less fun for me. It's less fun to try to write really good copy. What's fun for me is being in a conversation with someone and sharing what I see. And so when I ask people, hey, do you want a personalized invitation? It's really someone saying, yeah, I've got some interest or curiosity, or I would just even like to see what that's like. And what I'm going to do, if you are someone that puts your hand up to that, is I'm going to get myself present to who you are, what I notice about you, what I see, and I'm going to share the possibility I see for you. Here's what I see is available for you in being here. And that'll be unique and particular to yourself. For me, that's a much more exciting way to enroll for something. And it's cool because it's kind of like we're co-creating it, right? It doesn't mean that you're a yes to the event. It doesn't mean that there's any pressure. It doesn't mean anything other than you and I are kind of coming together and saying, hey, why don't we just fill this out and let's be in a conversation about what might be here. And that's going to make it way easier to choose rather than just like, I guess I'll say yes, or well, hopefully that's not how people are saying yes. But so anyhow, if that speaks to you, if that inspires you, if that's intriguing to you, or if you just want to hear more of my voice in your life, which is shocking because there's a lot of it, I imagine, then either find that post and put your name there, say, fuck yeah, or heck yeah, or fudge yeah, or whatever feels good to you. I'd like to have an invitation like that, Adam. Or write a comment here and let us know, or send me an email at adam@adamquiney.com and we'll make sure that you get that invitation. Okay, good news. First of all, very impressed. It's 10:15, right on the quarter of the hour. I stopped talking, then started talking again. Don't mind that. This is the good part where we bring someone else on and take some of the pressure off of me. So Karen, get your fine ass self over here, turn that video camera on, turn on your audio. I can stop gesturing. Yay. Oh, nice. It's like I pulled you over. Are you wearing, is that a wand?
It is.
Oh, I want to get my wand too. Tell me about, I'll get mine here. Tell me about what kind of wand are you wielding?
Uh-oh. I know. I kind of forgot.
Is it Geordie LaForge's visor?
How'd you know?
We're dorks.
Also, sometimes it's a pig nose. It's Ron Weasley's wand.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I got it. The wand maker at Harry Potter World.
Ollivander, perhaps.
Yes, thank you. He chose me.
I heard about this.
I was actually with Bae, and she's like, "Oh, and the wand maker will choose one person." And I said, "Well, there'll be all those little kids. What if the wand maker chooses an adult? That'd be terrible. What a selfish adult." And I went in there and I was like, locking eyes. Dude, you will choose me. You will choose. Then somebody says, "And I choose one person. I choose you." And I was like, "Fuck yes, you do."
Nice.
Hence my wand. He chose it.
Very cool. My wand is, I believe, I think this is called the Elder Wand, which was bestowed upon me by my wife. And nice. This wand carries great power, but also requires great responsibility. I like that.
Yeah.
So I'll set this down
now.
I'm
going to have to review the provenance of my wand.
Totally. Yeah.
I'm going to wield it. Yeah.
That's been chosen for you.
Yes.
Anything you want to share before we dive in? I mentioned the retreat. I mentioned you were one of the people that didn't come. Anything you want to share about that before we kind of get into it?
Yeah. So when you said that, I was like, fuck everyone, including me. Yeah. I kind of wanted to hide when you,
Mm.
it was all this. Oh, and Karen's one of the people who didn't come. So yeah, um, I didn't come because I had a medical issue, which I still
Uh-huh.
have with my knee, and yeah, I experienced a lot of sadness and tried to get myself out of that, as we discussed earlier in this week, how I do that. And it was, oh, cool, I'm going to like their pictures on Facebook.
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, fuckers, fuck them, fuck me. Yeah. Yeah. So my work definitely is being with the sadness, empowering the decision not to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for the emotion and for sharing that.
Yeah.
It's we all want breakthroughs to be like, oh, and then I was happy for them, and then I never felt sad or disappointed or angry ever again. But it's like, that's great. So now you can be more happy, but even further away from our ability to be with the other stuff.
Right.
You remind me of the first night of my medicine ceremony where all there was really for the medicine for me was, here, be disappointed and let down and left out and be with that. Like, oh,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, nice.
It's got a lot of money to be with those things. But
Yeah.
hey, that's what it takes, right? We sometimes need that thing to trigger and be willing to be with that. So
Yeah.
cool. Okay, well, let's dive in. What are we? I'm going to turn this fan on. It's already getting edgy in here. There we
Yeah.
go. What are we talking about today, Karen?
So there were a couple of things that came up for me when I was thinking, like, how to prepare to not prepare, and just there is something that keeps me up at night and keeps coming through me, and that is how to be in the excitement and the inspiration of something without like burning the house down, which is my typical way of being. It's very black and white. Like, I want the thing and nothing is going to get in the way, and I'm going to keep everybody out. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So it's like there's something you want, and then you're like, the rest of life can fuck off.
Yeah.
We're going to make this happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
So I suppose the request around that is, the request around that is, just really came through me, is like the stillness, being with the stillness and peace in the process of creation, and how and bringing more of that into my ways of being.
What's the feels like there's emotion with that? Is that is that right?
Yeah.
What is it like? What's showing up for you as you share that?
Yeah. So like I go back to family of origin, and like if you're building stuff, like everything gets up. The story I grew up in is, if you're creating, like everything gets put aside. Like, you can be away from your family for 5 nights a week. So this is my dad, basically. My dad's with me as a child. If my dad's at home, which he wasn't very often, and he's talking to a client, like, he would snap his fingers. There are 3 kids, like born 3 in 3 years. We were fucking nut jobs, right? So he's like snapping his fingers to shut up. So like, right. The message is basically, world, shut up. And
right.
Yeah.
And
so I kind of create that way as well, as much as I fucking hate that.
Right. Got it. It's like you can either create, provided the world shuts up,
Right.
or whatever's over on this side.
Yeah, which is like play doesn't come into create. Fun doesn't, like laughter doesn't come into create, because that's the thing that has to shut up.
Uh-huh. Got it. Okay. And I don't want to like, it's not really about this. I am just curious, what was the emotion that did show up? So I got like the kind of background or the story of it, or that
Yeah.
led to it. But what were you feeling just as you were sharing that?
Yeah, it would. I mean, it's something that often comes up for me. It was loneliness.
Oh, okay. Got it. So you can create, but of course the world's got to shut up, which kind
It's
of a
my
lonely.
loneliness. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Got it. Okay, great. So do we have I'm going to take notes while we go. Is that all right? Okay,
Please.
awesome. So you'll see me look down from time to time, but that's why. So is there anywhere where this is really present for you right now?
Yes. It's present for me in that my energy really comes up at night.
Mhm.
And like, I don't want night to come. So it's fun, like, even night, you go away, because
Uh-huh.
I want to create in being with people. I kind of have spent a long time, I would say the last 9 months, pushing people out of my world.
What for?
Because they're noise in my creation.
Right, but what is it you're creating that has had you push them out of your world?
Can you ask that a different way?
So what I heard you say was like, when you're creating, you tell world to fuck off, is more or less the idea. And and then I heard you say, so for the last 9 months, you've been telling the world to F off, right? So I'm just kind of like, oh, got it. So what was it that you were creating that had you, I'm just trying to get that other side of the equation. Does that make sense?
You mean, what is the result, or what am I creating?
What have you been creating up to making happen that's led
Yeah.
to you then employing that strategy with the world?
Yeah. So I've been building my practice.
Got it.
Yeah. I mean, I could look at like, what am I really creating? Disconnection
Yeah.
and this and isolation and sadness and all of that.
Right, of course. But that's like a little thinky about it, right?
Yeah,
Let's
right.
get
I'm
ahead
not
of
going to be so
ourselves.
thinky.
Yeah.
That's
Good
boring.
word.
Stupid stuff.
Okay, so what is it? Is there anywhere in your life where you're like, man, I really want this thing, and then this is like, I get it conceptually.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, with our feet on the ground, is there any place or anything that you really want in your life where this is kind of currently in the way of it?
Yes, I want connection.
With who?
Oh man. I want I want deeper connection with my husband. I want different connection with my parents.
Husband deeper, parents different.
Different.
Don't know what it is, just don't want it to be that way.
Just whatever it is, different. I want renewed connection with some friends, but not all.
Okay.
Yeah, and I want to create connection with new people.
So where do you really find this is currently thwarting you?
I'm just staying in my work and using all of it, using the work to stay away from all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
So the danger of especially as coaches, because we can kind of like get our hands around the distinction of it. But then the danger of getting our hands around a distinction like this is it can just be like this all or nothing like thing to hit ourselves with, like, oh, I'm doing it everywhere.
Yeah.
And the trouble with doing it everywhere is then to fix it, you have to fix it. You have to fix it everywhere. And so then it becomes this, like, it's hard to just, how do I eat an elephant, right?
Right.
So the first thing to eat an elephant is you take a single bite. Poor elephants, but oh well, it's their fault. They're too big. How do you eat a brontosaurus? That would be better.
Okay.
They're extinct.
Yeah,
We can talk
they're
about them that way.
extinct, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, people figured out how to eat brontosaurus. So this is fine. I feel good
Exactly.
about this metaphor now.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm kind of looking with you is, okay, I get it. Like, it sounds like you feel sort of this commands your life to some extent. It feels very prevalent, but I imagine it might be easier for us to sort of work with it if we could get down to a specific place so that we could start to really like hone in on it. So if you were to choose something like that, where would we really be looking?
I think I'd like to look at my parents.
Okay, got it. So what is it you want there with your parents? How do you want things to be or look or feel?
I want to be seen. I want to be seen and acknowledged, and taken seriously. Yeah, and it was really rough on live, man. You, Adam, and loved.
Got it. So seen, acknowledged, taken seriously, loved.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All similar kind of flavor, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it actually? Because
I'm going to add one more.
Please.
Trusted.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. I think there's a different flavor there for me.
Great. So currently you're left feeling unseen, under-acknowledged, not taken seriously, unloved, untrusted. Is that a fair, or at least you're not getting those things, it sounds like. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm not hearing those things. I'm not seeing those things in the way that I'm able to receive them.
Okay. And how does this connect with where we started, which was sort of like when you're creating or in the sort of, I got to make something happen, fuck off world?
Yeah. This is along those lines too, because like, I want it all to be beautiful and loving and trusting and taken seriously and acknowledged. I want to be there already. So I want to like burn the shit down, point out to them, fuck you, you're not being this, you're not showing me that, alienating them, creating disconnection along the way.
Let me see if I've got this. It's a little confusing for me, so bear with me. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. Just want to make sure that we're walking through it so that we're on the same page, that I'm here with you. So where we started was when there's something you want to create, make happen, bring into the world, when you're committed to doing something, you get very like, maybe myopic is the word. Like, this is the thing, everything else is a burden or whatever it is, get lost. Kind of isolated.
Yeah.
You're like, this is, okay. And then from there we got to, okay, great. Where is this in the way of something? Like, what is it you want that this is in the way of? And you said, oh, well, connection. Ultimately, I feel quite lonely and I want connection with my husband, parents, friends in varying degrees. Got that right?
Yep.
Okay, great. Then we chose your parents, and I was asking you, like, what do you want with your parents? And you said, I want to be seen, acknowledged, taken seriously, loved, and trusted. And then I asked, great. So how does that, whatever's there currently, relate to the thing the sort of dynamic you described? And it sounds like you're this is the part I'm a little lost on. It sounds like you said, well, given that I'm so committed to being seen, acknowledged, taken seriously, loved, and trusted, I'm telling them to fuck off. Is that kind of it?
I can see why you're confused. Yes, that is my
'Cause I'm a
perfect
dummy.
system. But that is like my perfect system for fucking it up. Yeah.
So what is it that you're fixated on?
I'm fixated on what, well, in this with my parents, I'm fixated on, I'm actually fixated on what I'm not getting.
Okay.
And magically believing that by sharing regularly with them what I'm not getting, it will create what I want.
Got it. So you're kind of like, all my attention is on that I'm not being seen. And if I keep just to choose one of these, is that what, actually, let's have you name it. So what's one of this list of things you want that you're like fixated on not getting enough of or not getting at all?
I think it's taken seriously.
Great. So I'm not being taken seriously. You're fixated on that. You keep pointing to that. And then what does that get you?
The same, of not being taken seriously.
Okay. Well, so I want to share something with you that's not right, but like I notice that there's this part of me that's like, feels a little bit like we're trying to shoehorn these two things together. Do you have that sense, or is it for you like, oh, it's all perfect fit, jigsaw puzzles coming together?
No, it does. I see that.
So like let me lay the planks just so where we started was like, there is this way of being that I have, which is like, this is what I want to do, fuck off everything else. Right. And so I asked, like, what is that block? Why even take that on? Right. Because there's times when that's really important. Like, for example, if you were, I don't know, leading a war effort or helping people overcome a crisis like a hurricane or something. That's important. That's the most important thing. So look, I'm sorry, honey. I really understand the wireless modem's not working. Please go over there. And maybe we could do a bit of work to have you be more artful in that closing of the door. But that's not really, again, the crisis is the crisis. That's the thing for us to look at, right? So there's times when that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a thing.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm clear on the pattern that you've got, right? Remember coaching for dummies and really smart people?
Yeah.
Where are you? Where do you want to be? What's the gap? Coach to close the gap.
Right.
So we've got kind of like the gap is what I'm hearing. The gap is I'm focused on something, fuck off everyone, blah, blah, blah. It feels a little bit like what we're trying to do now is almost take these two other things and fit them into the gap so that it all makes a coherent picture.
Yeah.
Rather than starting from like, where are you and where do you want to be? And then let's see if that thing is even worth us exploring, because maybe it's not.
Yeah.
So how does that all land with you before I say more words?
Yeah, I'm feeling that. I am feeling that like, is this worth exploring?
Okay, great. And does it feel kind of like we're shoehorning, or does it feel different for you? I want to make sure that I'm giving you the reins to lead us here.
Yeah. I feel the shoehorning. And and I don't want to stay there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Got it. Okay, so what are we trying to create here? Like, let's go back a few more steps. I noticed when I asked you, where is this in the way? If we imagine that was really just a question to help us reveal what you want more of in your life, forget the gap at all entirely.
Yeah.
What I hear you want more of in your life is connection. And where you are currently is kind of feeling a bit lonely, isolated.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you mentioned husband, parents, and friends. And I noticed when you mentioned husband, there was like it felt like there's a lot of energy around that, like a lot of emotion. And then parents was a little like, this isn't right. It just felt like safer territory for us to be in.
For sure.
Okay, got it. So
Yes.
100% we can honor that. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure we're putting it in front of you so that you're choosing powerfully, like with conscious choice.
Yes.
So is it sort of like, yeah, husband's a bit edgy. I'm not really comfortable going there, especially live, which makes total sense.
Yeah.
And parents is the place for us to go.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great. God bless your husband.
Love.
And
Yeah.
thank you.
Awesome. Wonderful guy.
Yeah. So with your parents, there's where you want to be with them is, now this is the part I want to make sure that we get this clear, is it that you want an experience of being seen, acknowledged, taken seriously, loved, trusted, or is it that you want to see, acknowledge, take seriously, love, and trust them? I'm not asking that like a thing that's meant to give you awareness. I'm just checking in to make sure I'm on the right page.
Yeah. Well, I want to be seen.
Great.
Acknowledged. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So what's happening instead of that?
What's happening instead of that is I feel like, and I have felt this always throughout my existence, just being misunderstood. Not heard. Yeah, and like not taken seriously.
Okay, great. I'm going to ask you to elaborate and ask you some more about that. But first, I'm going to talk to everyone watching just so that give them like, hey, here's where we are. So everyone, we're not really into the coaching yet. I mean, it's all coaching, or rather, perhaps put differently, it's all the being of coach, but we're not really doing anything to move Karen forward at this point in the conversation because we don't really know these three things that we need, the coaching for dummies components. Where is she? What does she want? And then what's the gap? So if I deign to provide any advice or any like, here's something to be on the lookout for in your own coaching, it's notice when, it's what a lot of performers, people like Karen and I do, is we're like, here's a problem and all problems must be fixed. It's a law of the universe. So we're like, I've identified a problem, fix this for me or with me, coach. And so that's why it's so important, especially if you're geared this way, that you really work with your clients to be like, are we just fixing a problem for the sake of fixing a problem? Or is this actually the thing in the way that we need to address? Because often it'll be much safer to fix a problem than it is to go and actually be with the real heartbreak or whatever it is that's actually there for us to take on. Okay. Yeah. So you wish to be seen, acknowledged, taken seriously, loved, trusted, and how you're left feeling is misunderstood, not heard, not taken seriously,
and not trusted.
And not trusted.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So what would that look like? Like, I know in my head what that might occur like, but how does that look like over there in your world?
To not be or to be. Trust, all of those things.
I went Shakespearean on me, damn. to be left feeling misunderstood, not heard, not taken. What's actually happening that's giving you that experience?
Yeah. One, I get things like, oh, that's just your coach bullshit. Okay, there's one.
Okay. That's relatable.
Yeah. So I come from an entrepreneurial family. When I worked for someone else, they didn't understand me.
Yeah.
That I am an entrepreneur, they don't understand me. But when my siblings are entrepreneurs, they get understood. When it's me, it's like, I don't get you. I don't get you. I don't get your time. I'm not sure what you're doing. How do you make a living doing this thing? Do you make a living? Are you a real coach? In fact, my mom actually said, you're not a real coach yet. because you haven't coached long enough. That was 3 years in. Yeah, I wasn't a real coach yet. What else does it look like? It feels like a detached way of, like, I live in a secret world that they just can't understand.
Okay, got it. My coach Rachel asked a really great question that I'm going to bring into the conversation here, which is, so we're clear like what you want with your parents.
Yeah.
What do you want to leave this conversation together with?
Yeah. I think what I want to leave the conversation with is the okayness of who they are and who I am.
Uh-huh. Got it.
Yeah.
I take it that's not currently there for you.
No, what's currently there for me is get it fucking right.
Uh-huh.
And also get the past right. Fix that and get it right now. Like that's the child who wants to be validated, you know, that's that. Rational
Yeah.
me has, and coming from my heart is I want to walk away with being okay with who they are and who I am.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Who they are and who I am. I hear that right? How did you say it? I want to walk away with being okay with who they are.
I did say that, but I think I'm going to change that to being okay with who they are.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So what is currently in the way of that?
Righteousness.
Say more about that.
Yeah. So being in this space of love and abundance and growth and change and possibility, right? Like I'm in that world where what is not, doesn't have to be that way. I can choose something else. I know that. And so the righteousness in me wants them to know that too.
Can you say that more simply for me?
Yes, I'll say that more simply. I know I'm right.
and you're right about?
I'm right about I'm worth loving.
Got it. So it sounds like, well, are you holding it that they don't love you?
I'm holding it that they love me with part of me they don't love. Yeah. You
are working hard to confuse me, Karen.
I'm sorry.
I'm just teasing. No, you're doing totally fine. You're doing completely fine. I'm just teasing you. And I'm going to stop doing that now. Okay. So it's great. Like I really trust when things feel complicated, we're like, especially with you, because I know you well, there's like, one of the things that I adore about you is there's a real simplicity to your truth. And there's a complexity to your safety. Yes. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So I trust the complexity that's showing up because it says like, hey, I think we're up against something here that's a little maybe tender, maybe scary. So please don't feel bad. And I apologize for like poking fun at you in a way that might have felt a little sharp. So do I need to clean anything up with that first?
We're good.
Great. It's mostly me being afraid of looking stupid.
I know you too.
Great. So you're saying what you want to leave here with is being okay with your parents exactly as they are, more or less. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing in the way of that is your righteousness.
Yes.
Okay. And so let's just go back to that same question. Like, what is it you're being right about that's in the way of being okay with your parents exactly the way they are?
It's in the way of I'm right that they can see differently. They can open up to different choices about me.
Okay, let me just get that so they can open up to different choices about me. I get that right?
Yeah.
About me. Okay, so then let me just read it back to you. So remember, the question is like, what is it that you are right about with your parents that's in the way of accepting them exactly as they are? And your answer to that was, what I'm right about that's in the way of accepting them exactly as they are is that they can see differently and that they can open up to different choices about me.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, is it, when you hear that read back to you, does that sound like, oh, that's the thing in the way?
No.
Okay, great.
Yeah. No.
Nice. So I'm just going to speak to everyone else very quickly.
I
So
was
guys,
about to just blurt out. Okay.
Do that.
Blurt?
I changed my mind. Yeah, let's get it out.
Okay. I'm just going to blurt out that there is a childhood wound that fucking needs to be fixed. And I'm blaming them. And as we're talking, and it's like really coming up, that I'm realizing like where that wound is and who holds it. Yeah.
We're getting simpler.
Yeah.
How are you doing? You feel pretty solid in this moment, but I want to check in because I know that we're kind of going into tender territory.
Yeah, we are. Not like, I'd like to do some shouts right now, but that probably wouldn't help. And I wish I had chosen, like, how can I build my coaching practice, Adam? Fuck.
You'd probably be here anyhow.
You're right. I'm not opening a beer. It's a Diet Coke.
So you're right that they're
okay.
So there's a wound, and it sounds like you're like it's theirs to fix or something like that, or
it's like I want a do-over. Yeah, so like the angry child in me wants them to respond differently than they did to me.
Well, help me situate ourselves in this conversation. So we started like you said, let's lay the planks again. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Where you are is like kind of feeling a little disconnected, lonely. It's not just with your parents, but that's the place we're looking.
Yeah.
What do you want with your parents, and what do you want by the end of this conversation? You want to be okay, exactly as they are.
Yeah.
Really beautiful thing, like really an expression of love. You know, your child poos, draws on the walls, and what a parent does is love them in the face of doing that, even if they do get annoyed by it.
Yep.
And then we were looking, what's the gap between these two things? And you said, well, I'm right about stuff about them. Yeah. Great. What is it that you're right about that's in the way of accepting them exactly as they are? And then you kind of like put some stuff on the table. So just help me. Where are we now?
Yeah.
That conversation.
As much as I don't want to, I think we should stay there.
Where are we?
We're in the how to be with we can't go back. We can't go back and redo. It is back to being okay with who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I want to, I have a lot of anger that it's really coming up for me lately, like an unresolved kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And I would like peace around that. And to be okay with, they responded, they did the best they could with what they had.
Right. Okay, great. I'm going to speak to these people for a sec. Okay.
Yep.
Great. Best they could. So for those of you watching, listening, you may notice like Karen's very brilliant. She can hold a lot of stuff, but if part of ourselves is designed to keep us safe and avoid going into what's scary, complexifying things, complicating things is a great strategy. It's like a smoke screen. And there's like all this stuff with Karen. We're like, oh, let's go down that path, but it's a bit of a red herring. And so it's actually not for us as coach to decide that it's a red herring. It's for us to like sort of feel into it and then keep giving it back to Karen. So you'll notice I'm laying the planks, so to speak, a lot. I'm drawing out the dots and I'm just checking with Karen, like, is this actually the next dot for us to connect, or is it a different one? So if you're like that, this is slow or like hard, it is maybe not hard, but it's like, this is the world of, I assert some of like Karen's breakthroughs, or how the work looks for Karen is sort of like going slowly and checking. When you have a lot of fog, you have to check your steps a lot of the time. And that's what we're doing. We're walking through the fog together. So back to you, Karen. You said you've got a lot of anger showing up. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And your parents did, like, you want to feel their parents did the best they could, but you can't really. Like there's, and it reminds me a bit of when you shared with, like, we had our Forge call and you were saying, oh, I was trying to be happy for the participants that were in Costa Rica with you and Bay, Adam. Trying. What, is that how it feels to you?
With my parents?
Yeah, kind of like that same flavor where you're trying to like be happy or accept them exactly as having done the best they could. And then there's this thing you're kind of operating on top of.
Yeah, there's this should, right? I'm their daughter. I should love them exactly as they are. I should accept them exactly as they are, with the knowledge that they did the best they could.
Got it. And what's this, like, notwithstanding what you should, there's a bunch of anger.
Yes.
Directed at them or at you, or where?
The world, at times them, at times me.
What's that?
At times me. Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's them, sometimes it's the world.
Great. And it sounds like some of that anger is in the way of accepting them exactly as they are.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And is that the anger that's directed at you? Is it the anger directed at the world, the anger directed at them?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, which the most? Like, my hunch is it's the anger directed at them, but
Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, great.
Your question. Yes, the anger directed at them.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So what is your story about your anger directed at your parents?
That it's different for each of them. That for my mother, she looked the other way. Is that what you mean?
No, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to clarify.
Yeah.
So really, you've got anger and it has some content to it, right? Like, you should have done this, you should have done that. This is wrong, blah, blah, whatever that is, right? And it's different for both of them, but nevertheless, there's anger for both of them, right?
Yeah.
What's your story about the fact that you have anger? Like, is that, does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's unacceptable.
Okay.
It's wrong. I should be loving them completely. And I should push it down.
Great. Completely I should push it down. Okay, great. So not a lot of room for anger.
No,
Like,
no.
got it.
By the way, one of my survival mechanisms is smoke and mirrors. Like that's a name of that survival mechanism. So
Yes. Yeah, nice.
yeah.
I just want you to know that one, you're doing awesome work, Karen, in this conversation, and I know it's challenging. Where I trust that it is, it feels that way. For
It
like,
is.
kind of, we're in it together, and so one, I'm really grateful for you being in this conversation with me. Two, I just want to read you this comment that Matt Marks said, which was,
That's my
"Wow,
nephew.
oh wow, cool." So he said, "Wow, Adam, what an incredible special celebrity guest star today." So thanks, Matt, for writing that. And thanks, Karen, for whether he was your nephew or a stranger in Taiwan who just happened into this chat. I trust that that same feeling would be there. So thank you. So, okay, great. So there's like this is starting to make sense. And let me make sure that we've got it. Feeling kind of disconnected, lonely. The place we're looking is with your parents, want to accept them exactly as they are. The gap between that is like some righteousness, and it sounds like some anger. And now we're looking at like, great, let's look at what is the deal with that anger? How's the story? What's the relationship to it? Which is, it's unacceptable. It's wrong. You should be loving them completely, and you should push your anger down.
Yep.
Okay, great. And I'm curious, are there places where anger is acceptable, or is that the relationship to anger as a whole?
No, there are places where anger is acceptable.
Okay.
Yeah. And like simple things in life. Like I'm angry that the airline canceled my flight.
Ah, got it. Generic airline.
Yeah, yeah. I'm angry that the waiter, no, that's not acceptable to me. I'm angry that the man takes my money in taxes.
Great.
That kind of thing. That's acceptable.
Is it ever directed right at a person? Is that ever acceptable, or is it always like a broader sort of thing?
Oh, well, I mean, that happens, but that's less acceptable.
Okay, great. Cool. Okay, so given this, what do you do with it? Like, because it sounds like your parents make you angry sometimes.
Yeah. I got a whole lot of shit about it, right? I'm a 50-some-odd-year-old woman who gives a fuck, right?
Uh-huh.
I got that.
Yeah.
What do I do about it? I cut myself off more from them.
Okay, cut self off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we basically have an unwinnable situation.
Sure.
The situation is, you've got parents. You want to be close with them. Your parents sometimes make you angry, and it's unacceptable to be angry.
Yeah.
That's like, those things cannot coexist, right?
Right.
So I'm imagining you've created some solutions, some strategies, some techniques, et cetera, to like deal with this impossible solution that you have. So that's what I want to hear about. Like, what have you created, figured out, learned to do, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. Okay. So here are the things I do. One is I spend a lot more time with them than my siblings.
You spend a lot more time with them.
I do.
How does that work here? Help me understand that.
I get to see how awful I am in their eyes. No. Well, and that's part of it. And also I'm trying to win.
Okay, but then what do you do with your anger? Given that spending more time with them, it sounds like is going to make you angrier. What do you do with that fact?
I'm right. Like I get to be right.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep trying. I keep trying to win them.
Right. Okay. What do you do with your anger? Like,
I stuff it down.
Okay. Stuff it down.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah, that's really about 90% of what I do with it. I resent them.
Okay.
I wonder if they're right. Yeah. Numb out.
Excuse me. Numb out.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit more about that.
Like watch TV, eat, drink.
When you're with them or just in general?
Yeah, when I'm with them.
Okay, great. So it's like you spend more, it's like the quantity of time you spend with these people is greater, but then you're physically present, but maybe emotionally distant or some flavor of that. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're starting to bump up to our time. So there's like a couple of things I would just want to offer and put on the table. But they may not actually be real or right or true or anything like that. First, how are you doing in this conversation?
I'm doing okay. I notice that I went to a vulnerable place and then didn't really want to go there live.
Aha.
Yeah. So smoke and mirrors really showed up.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
totally okay.
Yeah.
Like this isn't, we're working with the gradient. Like
Yeah.
I noticed that same thing. A few times I've been like, okay, how do I point to that directly? Do I just hold the space for it?
Right.
And so we're working with the gradient here. And like, I really get, Karen, that like I'm really clear on two things. One, you've not really had any particular positive role model to establish an empowered relationship with your own anger. Fair?
Fuck yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
consequently, 2A, I guess, that's a bit of a problem because to be a human, like anger is one of the emotions that you get. So it's like, okay, that's going to happen. And so 3, then what happens is you got to like stuff it down.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like you're drowning in a little bit. You know, if you imagine a river that you dam, then the anger doesn't show up here, but the floodlands behind it flood. They're flooded with anger.
Yeah.
Which I imagine might be leading to you feeling a little bit resigned or something like that, which is often what happens when we can't express our anger. 2 things happen. One, it starts to morph into resignation. And then the other thing that happens is it gets expressed indirectly.
Mm-hmm.
So we dump it out in a way that we can't really see and can't fully be responsible for. That's the saving grace of our egos. That's the mercy, I guess. But then we're also used by it. We can't, it's not the other way around.
Yeah.
So what are you, I get that, like there's this sort of, it's tender and yet I'm pulling away from it and smoke and mirrors is showing up. So we get it, like it's there. What are you kind of present to at this point in the conversation aside from that?
I'm present to a whole bunch of things. I'm present to making excuses. Yeah, wanting to cover up both for me and for my parents. Like they're okay. Like I don't want anyone watching this to think my parents are monsters, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm present to this anger that I don't allow. That I call all sorts of other things, but anger. Yeah. And I'm present to how I hold myself back. Yeah. How this is like a kink in the hose.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Awesome. So here's my first assertion is like your parents are going to make you angry and sad and like not just you, everyone. If that wasn't the case, it'd be really weird because they're almost our most intimate relationship, but by definition.
Right.
And intimacy intimacy breeds this stuff. Like that is intimacy. It's into me,
Right.
see. And so if I'm trying to create intimacy with someone, but I'm never going to be angry, that almost is just by definition impossible.
Right.
So, and I get it. Like you're holding that if you really accepted your parents as they are, it sounds like you have a belief that then you would never be angry with them.
Yeah.
Is that kind of right? Like really check in with yourself. Don't just agree with me.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, something came through when you said that.
Yeah.
And that was in this like big gaping wound when I brought them. I had anger when I shared.
Yeah.
And the response I got was basically to shut the door.
With them. Like you shared anger and they shut the door?
They shut the door.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that I was fully present in what you said.
Great. So let me say it again, and then I'll speak to that part you just shared. So, and let me just talk to people watching first. Like, there's a time and place to make some assertions and give that to your clients. That's kind of what we're doing. Karen and I have been in the exploration for a while, and given our time, kind of like, okay, I'm going to put some stuff on the table and see what that provides to her. My job is to not be right or attached to her taking it any particular way if I'm going to do that, and to distinguish that that's what I'm doing. So to make sure I'm clear, I'm making some assertions here. This is my stuff that I'm putting out there for you. So first thing, you've got like, the problem is you kind of are holding it. It sounds like you should never get angry with your parents. Like if you could just accept them exactly as they are, you'd never be angry. That's the solution, which is basically an unwinnable game.
Yep.
Your parents can push your buttons better than anyone else because they installed them. That's where they got put into place. And so they're going to be able to make you angry, blah, blah, blah. Got that part, right?
Yes.
Up until this point, the strategy you've been using is stuff all the anger. Make it wrong that you have anger, which then, of course, from it being wrong, you're going to do everything in the power to not have anger or to shove it down or whatever.
Yes.
Which leads to you being flooded with anger. You're drowning in it. Okay. So the kind of obvious strategy is great. I'm going to kick down the door and I'm going to give them a full dose of my anger, which is not really what we're aiming for. Because the important thing to get is just because someone drives up my emotions does not necessarily mean that what there is to do is to belch those emotions onto them. So I'm really curious, Karen, like I know you've been in this work for a while. Have you ever done work around your anger?
No.
Never. Okay, great. That's cool.
Yeah.
So then there's a possibility here for like a lot to shift.
Yeah.
What do you think you might practice with regards to what we've been looking at?
I might practice speaking truth in a way that is not puking all over someone.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what would that look like? Like, how would you do that?
This thing, I would address that person. This thing is what I'm experiencing. Instead of like, are you fucking kidding me? Like how I
right
and want to respond.
Okay, great. Awesome. So that might be a good way to practice. The challenge is it's a little bit like what I'm hearing you say is like, provide like a little bit of the anger, right? Like, or see if I can separate out the anger from the whatever and then offer them the whatever. Is that, do I have that right?
Yeah.
So great. I love where you're looking. And it's, if we stick with that dam metaphor, it's like, okay, I've got this dam with thousands of tons of pressure built up and I'm going to like be very new. It's like, it's hard to be nuanced with that.
Yeah.
At this stage.
Yeah.
But I love what you're talking about, which is I'm hearing you say sort of like practice maybe allowing some of the anger or trying to be a little more responsible for it is the word I would use. Instead of pretending it's not there, acknowledging its truth. Okay, great.
Yes. I also have
So-
another one.
Oh, great. Let's hear it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I feel like the acid of the years of anger, there's puking it out onto a page or 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really love that.
Yeah.
So few thoughts. Like one, this isn't a one conversation handled kind of thing. Of course,
Right.
you know
For
that.
sure.
Yeah. If only.
Right.
Two is the place to start practicing. I'm going to just make an assertion is not with other people right now.
Right.
First, it's like, this is all inside work.
Yeah.
There will be a time because ultimately, at least for me, maybe not for you, but my anger is usually a sign of like my heartbreak. And it's easier for me to be, I'm better equipped. It's simpler for me to be with my anger than it is to be with my heartbreak. And so when I move through the anger, what I'm left with is like, wow, whatever that person did really left me hurt and sad and whatever. And once I've kind of alleviated the energy around it, then I can just share like, hey, I just want you to know what you said really hurt me. It's okay. It's not a whatever. You don't have to worry about that right now. What right now there is for us to do is to practice like getting some of this energy that's flooding you moving out of you.
Yes.
Like a sluice gate.
Yes. Very
Great.
Canadian of you. Yes.
A sluice gate?
Yeah. What the fuck is that? I just imagine a luge. So whatever I'm not sure what you said, but I had a luge.
I believe, and I'm not certain about this, but I believe a sluice gate is something that you can open to relieve, like to allow some of the headwaters or whatever to flow. So like it reduces the buildup. It's a way of managing that.
Okay.
Instead of just, okay, we got a dam, release it. Okay, the city's destroyed, but it's no longer flooded back here. We feel great.
Yeah.
This is what a lot of people do, right? They're like, I'm just going to tell people when I'm angry. I feel great. There's a wake of devastation left behind them. So that's not what we want to do either. So so let's have you practice a couple things. And we're going to do this together. So first, I would just invite you to notice when you're angry and let yourself be angry. Would that be different than what you're currently doing, or is that more of the same?
That is different.
Okay.
Because my first question is, am I allowed to be?
Great.
Am I right? Wait, maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. So
Nice. Our friend Nathan Seward, a good friend of both of ours, and I were playing squash when I was in New York City. It was a real treat, and hurt my back for about 5 days, but never mind that. It's not part of the story. As we were playing, he was sharing, his timing was so great. He was saying like, oh yeah, I was listening to Ram Dass or someone really smart. And he was saying, there's a truth to the emotion, but then we want to separate that from acting necessarily on the emotion. Like Adam, right now, I really want to punch you in the face. I was winning at squash, but I can allow myself to be with the truth of that without actually acting on it. Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're doing is, rather than just be like, I shouldn't be angry, the truth is you're angry.
Yeah.
So one, notice, are you able to write these down?
Yep.
Okay, great. Let's have you doing that. So one, just notice when you're angry, and two, give yourself permission to just feel that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And then if we were to create some kind of anger on purpose, so basically a practice to have you express your anger in a safe, responsible way, what do you think might be a good way for you to practice that?
I'm not sure. Like I can think of creating situations where something is going to make me angry.
Right. But the good news is you're going to get angry anyhow.
Yeah.
So it's not like you don't have to go and look for like, oh, I'm going to set up this situation that's going to really piss me off.
Yeah.
Because you have so much of that, like you're flooded, right?
Yeah.
So you're naturally going to have that. So it's not, how do I make myself angry? It's more like, yeah, totally. And so what is a responsible, meaning it's not going to like leave devastation. It's not going to destroy people, whatever. What's a responsible way you could practice moving some of this through you, expressing some of this?
Yeah, I think I said it earlier. Like I'm writing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So maybe like, what does that look like? Like writing a letter?
Ooh.
Doesn't have to. I'm not saying that's how it is.
Yeah, yeah. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Okay.
Yes, it's writing a letter to, well, it could be writing different letters, but the letter that I think needs to be written first is to me, to my childhood, my 10-year-old self.
Awesome. So I love where you're looking, and I want to make this simpler for you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
So you're doing great. Great practices. Like, thanks for playing, Karen, because sometimes people are like, I don't know, it's impossible to come up with practices. And that's not who you're being. So I really acknowledge that. So my hunch is for you right now, anger is like a white hot flame when it's there. Okay, great.
Inferno.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not nuanced.
No.
So what you might just do is just sit down and write your anger, not write about your anger. So like writing about your anger would look like, I'm angry because Roger did this.
Yeah.
I think Roger should do something. Writing your anger is like, allow the anger to be there and then put it into words on the page. So there might be like 58 times you write the word fuck. Yeah. Or something. Maybe that's all you write. Maybe it's a giant. I used to, when I was practicing this a lot more, no pedestal over here, been here myself.
Yeah.
I had pages where I just torn through the page with the pen because I was so angry, like, shivved a notebook. So that might be a really great practice to just write the anger onto the page. I'll give you one more once you've got that down.
Yep.
Oh, it looks like you're writing.
I was actually writing and looking at the same time.
Okay, cool. The other one might be to practice just screaming or hitting a pillow. Screaming into the pillow, like put it over your face and screaming into it so that you don't scare anyone. Or going karate on a pillow, like expressing it physically.
Yeah.
Would you be up to practice that? Any of those?
Yes. Yes.
What do you see that might make available for you?
Oh my gosh, like my skate Weezer, whatever the fuck you call that, like starting to lift.
Your sluice skate.
My sluice skate.
Skate Weezer.
What might be available to me is lightness, freedom, beginning to unkink my kinkiness.
Nice. It's a really courageous practice to take this on.
Weepy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for feeling that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really courageous thing to do. Anger is scary. And especially when we've been trained that it's wrong, like to walk through the gate of like, all right, I'm going to like practice expressing something in the face of the stories and the programming I have. And thanks for seeing freedom and lightness possible. My recommendation to you would be to practice this every day.
Yeah. For
the next week.
Yep.
Would you be up for that?
I would be.
Okay, great. What time will be? Yeah, go ahead.
I will be instead of I would be. Yes, I am.
Cool. And what time would be the best? Like, what time do you think you'll be most reliable to take on a scary or practice requiring maybe a bit of courage like this?
Early in the morning.
Okay, awesome. Do you need to sort of check your schedule? We can do it. You can do it offline, but I just want to check in. Like, would you need to check your schedule, find a time for that, set an alarm? Is there anything you need to do like that?
I never take a client before 10.
Okay.
9 o'clock.
Okay, awesome. For everyone watching, what we're doing here is we're making sure, one, that Karen sees some possibility for herself in just doing this. Because often if you give a client a practice, they're like, well, I'll do it because Adam said to do it, which is not a great way to approach a practice. It's got a very short half-life, and they're not doing it for their own possibility. So they're just going to do it as long as they're afraid of letting you down, which is not this work. And the second thing is we're just checking to make sure, like Karen shared, this is really tender. So we can expect some resistance. That would be really human. It'd be weird if there wasn't any. So we're just checking, like, how can we make it most possible to take on this practice? I have one last thing to say about this, and then I want to see if there's anything for you to say to be complete. Okay, Karen? So this practice tends to feel silly, stupid, forced, and awkward at first because it's not what we're used to doing. And because your relationship to anger is, you may feel different about it, but whatever it's going to feel is a function of your relationship to anger. So this practice will probably feel wrong, I think you said, and like it's unacceptable, and like you should just push it down and you should be loving rather than expressing your anger. So we want you to expect that. We would expect that would show up. And that's kind of the gate you're walking through to create the freedom and levity that you saw possible for yourself. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. Anything left for you to say to sort of complete the conversation? It feels like we've kind of gotten more or less to where there is for us to get to.
Yeah. I feel like this is a beginning. And I also feel like it's the beginning of something way bigger than anything I brought today that I had in mind, like prepared to bring into this room. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for seeing and feeling that.
Yeah.
I know you'd sort of said like, oh, where I want to get to by the end of this conversation is to accept my parents exactly as they are. And I know that's not necessarily where we landed. So I just want to check in. Is there anything you need around that?
It is what I am feeling right now is that the work will help me get there anyway.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Yeah. Well, then I want to finish by acknowledging you, Karen, and then we'll just do a quick little bit of a debrief, okay?
Yeah.
So thanks. I really honor your strength, first of all, you're a powerful woman. I know you get that a lot, and powerful people, we get powerful emotional range. Like our emotions are powerful too. And so one, I'm just going to trust you. Your anger is powerful, and there's plenty of it. Not because you're weird or wrong or anything like that. Just you're a powerful human. And to be given that gift and then the impossible problem of like, this is wrong, deal with it, is it's brutal. That's a really big burden to land on a kid's head. And that you created this solution and that you were able to manage this for so long, and that you did it because you care and want people to be loved and accepted, is like really a testament to the size of your heart, the amount of strength that you have the capacity to hold, and the power that you are on this planet. I really love what I see. Maria asked what work you do, and I'll just share. I know Karen's a coach and works in coaching and leadership. And I really love what I see for your clients in having a coach that is doing this work in her own life, and then that can then stand for other people to sort of do the same work. I just think that's such a beautiful thing, because what we have is a lot of anger is either wrong or we have a lot of anger being wrong, and then the two extremes. So you're never angry and you're kind of like ineffective a little bit, like your power is shoved down, or you're powerful but you're a monster. And these are the two extremes we have, and we're trying to figure that out. And so I really honor you, Karen, for playing with this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, cool. How are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, I've got all sorts of things going on. Like, I wasn't complete in this, not that incomplete in the call. It was not forthcoming I've got all sorts of judgment about me.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful. I'm feeling a new and a different heaviness in a way, but in the right way.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really get that. And it's the benefit and the consequence of this medium, right? Like, hard to put it all out there because it does have an inherent limitation, which is why, generally speaking, I'm not coaching all my clients live.
Right.
It can provide something too, because we get to practice vulnerability in a different way. So there's magic to it. And I really get it. And yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
You did awesome. So there's a few things I'll speak to, but I'm curious, like, aside from what you feel, like the judgment or, whatever it is about yourself, anything you were present to in our conversation, anything you noticed, saw?
Yeah. I was really present to my own resistance. Yeah. I came in wanting to bring a thing that was a bit of a smokescreen, or, and my story of awesomeness, and I create big things and fuck the world. And yeah, like, that's a story that might be true. And I lost interest in it and confused you around that. And confused me too, because I was like, what the fuck? I also noticed how, as a coach, I can see things in others and speak to them easily, reflect them. And as a client, like, it's so much harder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
True that. Way harder, I think.
Way harder.
Yeah. Sorry, did I cut you off?
No, it was just, yeah, I'm really present to this story I have around being a disappointment that I hadn't really thought about.
Yeah.
Like in the Forge, when we talked about, like, what is your thing? And my thing is that I never want to be too much. Yeah. Disappointment's in there too.
Sure. Yeah. Usually those two things are like the poles of the magnet, like, I don't want to be too much, but I'm also never enough.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to read some of the comments we have here in a sec. Thank you, everyone, for what you've shared and spoken to. I really appreciate that, as I'm sure Karen does too. And everyone else that's in the chat really appreciates it. Like, you can't know what a difference your voice makes, even just posting a comment or a question or anything like that. So thank you all so much for that. A couple of things I was present to in this call. One was my own fear at times. Like, it's so nice when it's just like, bang, 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 covered that off, great, practices, awesome. But like, if we're not struggling, and I don't mean like if we're not creating suffering for ourselves, I mean if we're not challenged, if we're not doing it imperfectly, we're not much use to anyone. So if every week we just came on and did a perfect coaching conversation, it's going to be hard for you to learn from that. It's going to be great for you to use it as fodder to think you suck, but that's not what we're here for. It's not why Karen's here. It's not why I'm here. It's not why you're here. So I was present to my fear. I was present to my desire to make it look shiny. And then I was present to choosing to trust what I was feeling in the face of my fear and keep bringing it into the conversation. Hey, it feels like we're trying to shoehorn things that don't really belong. Hey, I'm really confused and feel a little bit dumb. And you guys even saw me at one time get just a little bit caught when I made a joke. And that's the work of coach. It's not to never be gotten. It's to actually trust we will be gotten and to be okay with that, so we can then be responsible for it in the moment. The other thing I'm really present to is we want to hit a home run right out of the park every single time. Like, oh, my clients just keep having breakthroughs. If your clients keep having breakthroughs, whoever you are, good for you. Don't tell me about it because I'll probably take it and use it against me, a weapon of my ego. And I really believe, and I was trained that like this is a work of moving people forward to first base or inches rather than miles. And we do hit home runs. If we put our focus on moving people forward one base at a time, we do hit home runs now and then. But we really have to be patient with ourselves and our clients and have love for all of it. So let's read some comments. Ruth, I have good news. This is recorded and gets posted. So Ruth is saying, I wish I would have heard this from the start. So Ruth, you can. You can go back and listen to it. It'll be posted, the archive or whatever will all be there. Karen, Heather Beaton says, you are amazing. I love all that you bring into the space always. Teresa Pimenta, hi Teresa, I don't think I've seen you before, said, I used to be drowning in anger and movement actually helped a lot. Vocalizing is a huge relief on letting anger out. And I found a Tibetan practice with a sword that was the cherry on the top of the cake. So if you have swords, Karen, make sure there's no one around.
I do.
Of course you do. Kickboxing would also be awesome, but my body is not okay with it. And that's something Nathan shared, that he found boxing was a good relief. The one thing sometimes can happen with boxing or something like that is it can be an awesome way to express our anger. And sometimes, especially when it's white hot, boxing is structured. And what is there for us to do is be unstructured and just fire is released from my system. So we want to make sure that you provide whoever it is listening opportunities for both of those, as opposed to just like always in the structure. And I agree, boxing can be awesome. I remember not on purpose, not intentionally, but working through anger about the progress of my squash game, just trying to smash this ball as hard as I could against the wall and banging my racket into the glass behind me and making one heck of a racket and feeling like a dork. Teresa also says, I so relate to you, Karen, in so many ways. This topic on righteousness and anger is a huge one for me too. Karen, you're such a badass. Thank you so much for being so open to being open. Awesome coaching conversation. So even if you have judgment about how you showed up,
Totally.
that's the impact you're having.
Yeah.
And Nathan said, thanks for showing your humanity, Karen. Really resonating as a fellow parent-related anger stuffer. Awesome. Okay, great. Well, I think that's all we'll say. I want to finish by making an invitation to anyone to that hasn't already felt themselves invited or doesn't even know about the intensive. Karen will be there, right, Karen? You just signed up?
I did.
That's an event Bay and myself run here in beautiful Victoria, British Columbia from May 14th to May 17th. It's going to be amazing. I guarantee and promise it. It runs 4 days. And the structure is basically the first day we create a whole bunch of foundation to support you in showing up powerfully, seeing each other's greatness, getting present to your shadows, and learning how to share from a really powerful place. And then the next 3 days, we work with whatever shows up. And I promise you a ton of magnificence, magic, and edginess is going to show up. So it's really a lot of transformation and a lot of really great food because it's in Victoria and we love our food here. For those of you that haven't heard me boast about it, Victoria has the most restaurants per capita of anywhere in North America after San Francisco. So we are very much in love with our food. So if you like food, come here. You can learn more about that at Evergrowth Coaching /the-intensive, or you can send a message or ask for a link or just follow me on Facebook and you're probably going to hear about it anyhow. Okay, everyone, we love you. Thanks for being here with us. This does not work the same when there's not people watching. It would have been a different conversation with Karen because we wouldn't be live and then maybe we'd go deeper, but then we wouldn't have probably just explored the way we explored. So there's a divine perfection to the way it goes. Till next week, see you all later.